In order to conquer Justin, I pretended to be a good girl for 2 years. But he still doesn't like me. At the party, truth or dare. Someone wants to see my joke and let me kiss the next person who comes through the door for 10 minutes. I wanted to refuse, but Justin sneered, "Alice, it's just a game. Don't be too embarrassed to play it." As soon as he finished speaking, the cold and dignified president of the student union pushed the door open and entered. Everyone thought he would refuse, but he looked at his watch and said to me, "Hurry up, I'll have something to do later." Everyone was shocked. I was also shocked, because this voice is very similar to the masked man I have been secretly training for 2 years. 1. I was just choosing a long and slender leather whip when I received a call from Justin. "Go buy Yuebai puffs from Nanqing district and deliver them to box 3. On the other end of the phone, he was giving orders with a hint of drunkenness in his voice. I frowned impatiently, turned around and glanced at the man waiting for me on the bed, but my words were gentle. "I have something to do dash." But Justin said coldly, "I'll wait for you for half an hour." After that, he hung up the phone. He was sure I would go. After all, everyone knows that I am the perfect fiancé who loves him dearly. Putting away my phone, I walked back to the hotel bed and raised the man's chin with my fingertips. The ink-colored gold mask covered half of his face, only revealing his gracefully curved thin lips and a red mole at the corner of his mouth. It made his skin color extremely white. 4 years ago, he was the first and only sub I met after time travel. He is generous with money, has perfect looks and figure, and is very obedient. I'm very satisfied, but no chance tonight. Damn it, Justin. I felt a little regretful and said, "I'm sorry. Let's make another appointment next time and I'll give you your money back." The man remained silent. It wasn't until I changed out of my black leather pants, put on a white skirt, wiped off my gorgeous red lips, put on light makeup and pushed out the door that he suddenly said, "What are you going to do?" In the past 4 years, the man never said anything unnecessary in bed except panting. This was the first time that he became curious about me. The voice was clear with a hint of hoarseness. "Excellent." So I looked back and smiled softly, tenderly. "Go put on a big show." 2. When I came to the bar with my puffs, there were already many people sitting in the box. Before I entered the door, I heard a delicate and arrogant voice. "Justin, sister, can you come over in half an hour? Yuebai's puffs are the most popular, and there will probably be a queue at night." Look in through the crack in the door. Under the colorful lights, Justin was half leaning on the sofa. His forehead was messy, lazy but handsome, and he was half holding the girl who was talking in his arms. He glanced at her and made the girl blush. Intimate and ambiguous. Hearing this, Justin's friend smiled and said, "Don't worry, no matter how late or how far away, she will come if Justin says anything." Last time Alice gave Justin that thing in the middle of the night and asked Justin to pay attention to his health. Yes, the last time Justin was injured while racing, Alice rushed abroad overnight as soon as she heard the news and took care of him personally for 3 days and 3 nights. She was so pale from the time that she stayed up. When I went to see Justin, she was not scared to death. Then Alice, the fiancée, really does her duty. "Justin, aren't you satisfied?" But Justin took a sip of wine lazily and said, "It's boring. If you like it, I'll give it to you." It was as if my fiancé was just a toy that didn't suit his liking and could be discarded at any time. I listened quietly for a moment, until the topic was over, and then I pushed the door open and walked in with the same smile on my face, as if I hadn't heard anything. "Justin, you want the puffs?" Beautiful cake boxes are placed on the table. But Justin didn't even look at me. His eyes stayed on the tip of my nose, which was red from the cold, for a second. "Is it cold outside?" "Freeze to death." I cursed in my heart, but my face remained virtuous and gentle. "It's okay. You want to eat it? I'll be fine if I'm cold." It was as if she loved him so much that she was willing to sacrifice everything for him. Hearing this, Justin paused slightly. But the girl next to him looked at me with a smile. "I want to eat. It's still snowing outside. Would you mind if you could please run a trip at night?" 3. I know this girl, but this is my first time meeting her. I heard someone say her name is Abby. She is Justin's new girlfriend. Very favored recently. Otherwise, Justin wouldn't let me go all the way late at night to buy her puffs. Of course. Or maybe he just wants to make things difficult for me. After all, He has always hated me, the fiancé forced upon him by the Castillo family. I know it very well. The girl in front of her was young and beautiful, with long black hair and straight hair, as pure as a delicate flower that didn't care about the world. But she said she was sorry. But in the corner of her eyes was the determination and defiance of being loved. The tea smells like tea. Quite right. But tea, I'm also pretty good at it. Hearing this, I glanced at Justin in surprise, blinked slowly, and then smiled softly. It's okay, just eat. He said he didn't care, but the corners of his eyes were stained red. It seemed like I would be sad and cry in the next second. But Justin didn't even look at me. Puffs explode. The girl was laughing so hard that her eyes were closed like a greedy little cat. Justin wiped the corners of her mouth attentively and gently, as if he really didn't care about me. But the system in my mind told me, the strategy value has increased by 3 points. Currently, 55% of the target tasks have been conquered. After hearing the news, my expression became even more sad, but my heart was filled with ecstasy. This dogman is really pretending. But if it rises by 3 points, it won't be in vain for me to find scalpers and buy puffs at a high price. For, yes, I am a raider. After suffering a heart attack in my previous life, I was selected by the system. In order to survive, I was put into this world to guide Justin. For this reason, I tried my best to become his fiancé, doting on and even doting on Justin. But he still doesn't like me, even hates me. On the day of the engagement, he said to me coldly, "Don't want me to accept you? You better be." I was speechless in my heart, but there was still a gentle smile on my face, like a selfless and infatuated person. We had been engaged for 2 years. In order to break off the engagement with me, Justin indulged in clubbing, racing, and going on romantic occasions. He changed girlfriends one after another. In order to embarrass me, he used all kinds of tricks. Last month, he asked me to deliver family planning supplies to him. Today, he asked me to run from the south of the city to the west of the city to deliver puffs to his new girlfriend. He expected me to lose my temper and get angry, but I am always smiling, always gentle, and always competent. Compared to life and death, I don't care about his little troubles with me. But today I'm a little angry. Thinking of that gorgeous red mole, I felt a little depressed. In my previous life, I spent time in the hospital bed watching PO every day. I loved reading gentle training literature the most, but unfortunately, I never tried it myself until my death. After traveling to this point, although I have a strategy mission, I have a healthy body and a perfect training partner. Apart from Justin, I am living a very comfortable life. I learned a new trick from a book and wanted to show off my skills tonight. The arrow was on the string, only to be interrupted. Disturbing people's interests will result in death from heaven and earth. While I was in a daze, a gloating voice suddenly came from my ears. "Alice, the king card requires you to kiss the next person who comes through the door for 10 minutes. I came to my senses. Looking at everyone's eyes, I knew they wanted to laugh at me. I shook my head and refused. "No, I only kiss people I like." As I said that, I looked at Justin, who was watching coldly, a little shyly. "Justin, can I kiss you? Be honest and direct." Justin raised his eyebrows and looked at me deeply. Just when he was about to speak, Abby suddenly hugged the man's face and kissed him hard on the mouth. Then she stared at me with anger in her eyes. "Justin is mine." 5. The girl's angry look was very cute, which made Justin laugh. So he hugged her with a smile and said, "Nonsense." When he looked at me again, he sneered, "It's just a game, Alice. Don't be too embarrassed to play it. I can afford it. But I'm afraid if you can't afford it." Looking at the strategy value that was already over half, I thought to myself. At this moment, a man pushed open the door and entered. Everyone looked over. Under the dim light, there was a face that was extremely handsome, but his temperament was as cold as ice. He turned out to be the president of the student union, Sam. The box fell into silence for a moment. Sam looked around and frowned. "What's up?" Under his oppressive gaze, someone hesitated and talked about the bet just now. When he mentioned that he wanted to kiss me passionately for 10 minutes, Sam seemed to glance at me quickly. I thought I saw it wrong. He was recognized as the flower of the school, and everyone thought he would refuse to participate in this game, but he lowered his head and glanced at his watch, and then walked up to me. The voice is cold. Hurry up, I have to go back to school later. He agreed. Everyone was shocked. I was also shocked, because this voice sounds familiar. Seems like I have heard it somewhere. I looked up and my eyes fell on a red mole at the corner of the man's mouth, and I suddenly had a bold guess in my mind. No way. No way. You. It can't be the masked man who just got out of my bed 2 hours ago. Sam had a cold face, and when he saw that I was hesitant to speak, he added, I'm going home in 20 minutes. The house is strictly controlled and there's a night ban. You can't fool around outside, he said, glancing at Justin meaningfully. Justin stood in front of me with a cold face. Sam, are you cured of mysophobia? Mysophobia only affects certain people. That's right. He just dislikes Justin. 6. In the box. Sam looked at Justin in front of him coldly, slightly raised the corners of his mouth, but was full of sarcasm. Justin, it's just a game, you can't afford it, right? Don't you hate her the most? You won't be jealous anymore. Every word is bloody. Hearing this, Justin's face became even more ugly, but after a while he looked back at me and suddenly sneered. How could I be jealous? But Sam, it's useless for you to agree. My little fiancée said that she only kisses the people she likes. I said so much, but you didn't remember a word, just remember this sentence. Really convinced. Logically speaking, I should firmly support Justin at this time and protect his face, but I think of him disturbing my good deeds, being sarcastic and provocative, and I don't want to make him happy. Then, I grabbed Sam's neat and strict collar, pulled hard and kissed him directly. The lips and teeth are dependent on each other, lingering and thick. Everyone fell silent. Until the glass breaks. Everyone looked. Justin, who had always been cold and disdainful, crushed the glass out of control. The glass was sharp and his palm was dripping with blood. Blood dripped. The room was filled with silence. The system's mechanical reminders are particularly clear and pleasant. The strategy value dropped by 5. The total strategy value has dropped to 50%. I hope the host will continue to work hard. The last note fell. Justin suddenly pushed the wine bottle on the table to the ground, gritting his teeth with red eyes. Everyone get out. Everyone was shocked and quickly dispersed. Abby was unwilling at first, but was forcibly taken away from the box. Sam looked at Justin, then at me and said solemnly, Let me know if I have any questions. I nodded slightly, but this interaction made Justin even more angry. When they left, he grabbed my chin with great force. So, he is the one you like? Your attentiveness to me all these years is all fake? Alice, are you kidding me? 7. Oh, masculinity is broken. He can live and drink, but he is not allowed to see his single-minded fiancée do anything out of the ordinary. Well-known double standard. I was speechless in my heart, but I took the initiative to hold Justin's hand. Looking at his bleeding wound, I quickly asked someone to drive to the hospital. I looked up at Justin with distressed eyes. How could you miss me so much? Well, I haven't been good enough to you all these years. I've endured so much ridicule and your deliberate embarrassment. Do I like to be a bitch? The person I like has always been you. The ending was choked with sobs, and my eyes were a little sad. Justin was stunned. His eyes fell on my red lips that were kissed, and his expression became darker. Then why did you kiss him? I was stunned and a little aggrieved. Didn't you ask me to kiss him? I don't want to make you angry. As he spoke, tears fell. Justin paused slightly, and his face turned blue and purple for a moment. Finally, he frowned and wiped away my tears. Why are you crying? Are you feeling wronged? I shook my head, looked at his wound, and asked softly, Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. I'm in pain. I lowered my head and carefully bandaged his wound. My voice was hoarse and weak. I feel like no matter how hard I try, you won't like me. Justin was silent. I looked up at him and smiled bitterly. Justin, I suddenly feel so tired. Will my efforts bear fruit? There was a hint of earnestness in his eyes. Justin looked at me, the coldness in his eyes cracked slightly, but he didn't say anything until the end. He just said, You go out first. I lowered my eyebrows in disappointment. In the blink of an eye, a tear rolled down his cheek and fell on Justin's palm. His fingertips trembled slightly. It's like being burned. Before leaving, I was still concerned. Don't get water on the wound, and be careful not to get inflammation. He said, and suddenly called my name. Alice. I looked back and saw that his whole body was trapped in darkness and I couldn't see his expression clearly. Waited for a while. He added, "It's nothing, you can go home." I nodded. The moment the door closed, the system's voice sounded. The strategy value has increased by 25, and the total strategy value is 75%. The strategy is about to be completed. Please work hard, host. Hearing this, I smiled with satisfaction. 8. A one-time increase of 25%. This is the largest single value increase since the guide. But I'm not surprised. For someone like Justin, who has been at the top of the pyramid since he was born, a fiancé who comes and goes quickly may not be enough to impress him. However, he has already regarded me as his toy. Since it belongs to him, even if he doesn't like me, he will never allow me to be tainted with other people's scent. This is not love. This is paranoid possessiveness. Today I crossed the line. This generated endless anger in him, but after I truly confessed my anger and saw that I was sad and crying after being misunderstood by him, it all turned into guilt for me. Guilt is more unbearable for Justin than love. Therefore, the increase in strategy value will definitely be maximized. Of course, only then will my perfect performance be in vain. When I walked out of the bar, it was raining heavily outside. A black BMW drove up in front of me, and the window opened, revealing Sam's handsome and enchanting face. The light was dim, but the mole on his chin was even more confusing. "Want to play?" I raised my eyebrows and smiled brightly. "Of course. I have a hunch. Today I'm going to have a lot of fun." 9. Arrive at the hotel. Sam opened the car door for me like a gentleman, but I chuckled and stretched out my arm to him. "Hug me." Sam was slightly stunned, took a step forward, used his arms to hold me, the whole princess in his arms. His arms were tightly wrapped around his waist, giving him a sense of security. "Open the door." "Close it again." Sam was lying on the bed. His forehead was messy and wet with rainwater. I knelt on his lap and looked at his expressionless face. I leaned close to his ear and gently exhaled a breath of hot breath. "Sam, what do you want to do today?" The man's Adam's apple rolled up and down, and his breathing stopped for a second. "As you wish." "You called it wrong." My hand slipped into his shirt, gently tracing and rubbing his tight abdominal muscles. "You should call me master." It was just his hand, but it was so numb that Sam's breathing became uncontrollable. He panted slightly, his brows filled with patience, but accept me without any resistance. "Master, play whatever you want." I leaned over and kissed the corners of his lips, my voice bewitching and charming. "Good little puppy." "Master, I like well-behaved puppies best. I want to give you a reward." His hand slid down, rubbing and teasing through the fabric. Sometimes light and sometimes heavy, sometimes fast and sometimes slow. Hiss. For a moment, Sam's breathing became rapid, and the veins on his forehead showed slightly as he resisted the urge to push back. I gently licked the man's Adam's apple. "Is it fun?" "Fun." Sam's chest rose and fell violently, and a thin layer of sweat broke out on his forehead. It was obvious that he was almost reaching the peak, but he still remembered my rules. "Master." I smiled with satisfaction and increased the speed of my hands. The man gasped hoarsely, his body tightened suddenly, and he completely released his desire. 10. The atmosphere in the room became thicker and thicker. Look down. Sam was lying on the bed, his cold face now flushed, and his usually cold eyes were slightly absent-minded. So comfortable. Owner. The iceberg sinks into desire. This kind of drama is my favorite. I wiped the mud in my hand onto the man's chest and smiled with satisfaction. Really, a lot of fun. At this moment, the phone rang. Click to see. It's Justin. On the other end of the phone, his voice was hoarse. "Why didn't you go home?" Sam's body instantly became stiff and his eyelashes were wet, like a puppy that was afraid of its owner leaving. I leaned over and kissed his cheek gently, as if to comfort him, but my words were cryptic. "I want to go to Hong Kong to relax." "I go with you." This was the first time that Justin offered to accompany me. It's a huge improvement. It seems that the 70% strategy value is really different. But this is far from enough. Love needs to be pulled. Play hard to get. So I refused. "No, I've already made an appointment with a friend. Justin didn't seem to expect that I would refuse. He was stunned for a moment and then said, "Have fun." I gently stroked the so-called friend's abdominal muscles that felt so good under me, and smiled slowly. "Of course. You will definitely be very happy." 11. Hong Kong is bustling at night, but no one cared to appreciate it. I looked at Sam, who had just come out of the swimming pool. The black bathrobe is loose, and the forehead hair is soaked, and the water drops are dripping, sliding over the excellently shaped chest muscles and abdominal muscles, and you can vaguely see the red marks hanging on them until they submerge into an unknown place that cannot be seen, but it is even more confusing. People's imagination wanders. I completely understand that ancient kings never came to court again. When beauty is present, it is time to enjoy yourself. I tugged on the man's bathrobe and rolled my eyes with a smile. On purpose. But he was calm. "Yes. Did you take the bait?" Water drops dripped from his wet hair and fell on my chest, and his proud and exquisite figure was vaguely visible. Sam's throat rolled and his eyes became even hotter. I was so cute by him that I held his face and kissed him hard. The voice seduces. Of course. Turning slightly sideways, exposing my snow-white skin, I leaned close to his ear and breathed out like a blue. "Now I command you to please me." As soon as these words came out, Sam was like a dog with a broken bone. He stared at me with his dark eyes for a moment, and the coldness in his... It's also enjoyable. So there is no need to apologize to me. Sam climbed onto the bed, carefully hugged me into his arms, and suddenly giggled twice for some reason. I looked up at him, but he closed my eyes gently. "Go to sleep." I nodded. "Good. So tired." 12. The third day after Alice left, Abby sent the drunk Justin home. When I got home, the room was dark, deserted, silent, and cold. She is a little girl with no hands on water. She wanted to cook hangover soup for Justin, but she made a mess in the kitchen. She finally followed the online tutorial to make it. But as soon as Justin took a sip, he spit it out. His face was filled with disgust. "It tastes bad. I don't drink." Abby's face stiffened slightly and she coaxed him again. "You won't feel uncomfortable after drinking it, Justin. Just drink it quickly." But before she finished speaking, Justin suddenly raised his head and stared at her. "Did you add ginger slices?" "You forgot." Abby was confused. "Forgot something?" Justin's face instantly darkened. "I never eat ginger, you forgot." "Alice, it's true that you have never liked me. You just want me to marry into a wealthy family. You have even forgotten my preferences. Do you really not like me?" As he spoke, he changed the topic again and held Abby's wrist tightly. "No. How can you not love me? You have to like me. He has great strength." Abby's face turned pale in pain, but she couldn't break away, so she could only say angrily, "I'm not Alice, I'm Abby." "Abby." Justin blinked hard, and after seeing clearly, he instantly let go of his hand. "Oh, it's you," he added. "No wonder you don't know. Only Alice knew about this matter. You know, she loves me like crazy. I didn't care about this little thing, but she noticed it through my eating, and then she remembered it. From then on, I never ate ginger again." Inside the apartment, Abby's face suddenly turned pale as she heard that her lover, who used to be gentle and considerate to her, after being drunk, could only see his fiancée whom he hated so much. This moment, she suddenly realized that if an arrogant young man like Justin really hated Alice, how could he have endured her cold greetings to her for 4 years, and even been engaged to this day? Both lived together under the same roof. He cares about her. Therefore, Alice only left for 3 days, but Justin drank all night long as if he had lost his mind. At this moment, he was leaning on the sofa, thinking that it was still Alice, and he murmured, "Where is she?" Abby had a hard time opening her mouth. "She went to Hong Kong." "Oh, she's gone." Justin's final voice was a little disappointed. It seems to have made her sad." But after a while, he made up his mind and suddenly said, "She loves me so much, I decided to be nicer to her in the future." Abby looked at Justin, who was excitedly planning how to be nice to Alice. For some reason, she suddenly remembered the calm and even cold eyes of Alice when she looked at her in the box that day under her deliberate provocation. She had thought it was numbness. Now that I think about it, I completely don't care. Alice never saw her as a rival. She knows Justin's love even better than Justin himself. Before leaving the house, she heard Justin calling Alice, and she spoke awkwardly. "Alice, when will you come back?" Alice's voice was still calm and gentle. "Did you miss me?" When Justin heard this, a childish shyness appeared on his face, but he spoke with disgust. "Why would I miss you? I'm just asking." He thought that in this relationship, he was in a superior position and could manipulate Alice at will. But the next moment, Alice's tone was just colder, but he was the one who was panicking. He spoke incoherently, looking for random topics. Abby suddenly realized at this moment, Justin and Alice have never been a bloody drama where the superior person bows down for love. Because Alice is the one in charge from beginning to end. 14. The strategy index increased by 10%. The total strategy value is 80%. Late at night on my third day in Hong Kong, a notification suddenly came from the silent and frozen system. At the same time, I received a call from Justin. "Alice, when are you coming back?" The ending sounds a bit drunken and aggrieved. I smiled. "Did you miss me? How is that possible?" Then it seems like I'm being sentimental again. As I said that, I casually lifted Sam's wet hair, but my tone was aggrieved. "I want to rest." Justin was anxious. "Alice, come back soon." TSK. How awkward. But the strategy value is actually rising. Men are the ultimate egoists. When a woman he can't live without suddenly leaves, he will start to miss her. But this may not be love. Just because my leaving caused him inconvenience, no one gave themselves to him without reservation anymore. Of course he would feel bad. Good. I'll go back as soon as possible. I miss you too. My confession forced Justin to control me for a minute. After a while, he suddenly said, "This time you come back, I will treat you well. We're fine." After that, he hung up the phone first. Shy and awkward. My 4 years of hard work to seduce her are not in vain. I believe I will be leaving here soon. Just as I was thinking about trance, my fingertips suddenly hurt. I lowered my eyes and saw that Sam was biting my knuckles lightly. After leaving tooth marks, he stretched out his tongue and licked it gently. Itchy. The tip of the tongue is bright red. But there was uneasiness in his eyes. Going back. I raised my eyebrows gently and kissed the corners of his lips in a comforting manner. This scene is about to end, and I believe it. The end of this scene will definitely be unforgettable for Justin. 15. The 7th day in Hong Kong. I returned to the apartment. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a disheveled woman riding on Justin. I froze in place. "You brought a woman back to our home?" Justin pushed the woman to the ground violently and walked towards me. "No, Alice, please listen to my explanation." "Good." I looked at him, holding back tears, and said every word very clearly. "Then tell me that you never brought another girl to spend the night with us during my absence. If you tell me, I will believe it." But Justin couldn't say it. He's never been good at lying. The traces on the woman and his body had revealed the love affair just now. I blinked and tears fell down. "You can't tell. 2 days ago, you told me on the phone that you wanted me to come back. I thought you missed me, I thought you finally saw me, but I didn't expect that you still wanted to embarrass me." Sad. "You did it." Justin raised his hand, trying to hold me, but I took a step back, my eyes broken and empty. "Justin, let's cancel the engagement. I'm tired." This is clearly what Justin wants to hear most. Been engaged for 4 years. He thinks about breaking off the engagement with me all the time. But when he really got his wish, his expression turned sinister in an instant, and he roared like a trapped animal from the roar. "No, we can't break off the engagement. Don't you like me? If you like me so much, you can't forgive me for this? I don't want to like you anymore." I looked directly into his eyes and said softly but firmly, "You are too dirty, I don't want you anymore." Dirty. One word seemed to crush Justin. His face turned pale suddenly. His lips trembled, but he didn't say anything. 16. Alice turned and left. Never looked back once. Looking at her back, I suddenly felt empty in my heart, as if I had lost something very important. Until her back disappeared, my heart felt like 1,000 arrows piercing my heart. Inside the bar, I drank bottle after bottle of wine, trying to ease the black hole of emptiness inside me. When my friends heard about the breakup, they all wished me well. Justin, you don't like Alice anyway. Isn't this the perfect time to get rid of her? Yes, with your conditions, what kind of woman can't be found? Alice was ungrateful and gave Justin his freedom. Someone else curiously asked, Justin, how did you force Alice to break off the engagement? In the past 4 years, I was almost moved by the way she has been treating you like a dog. I didn't expect that she was actually willing to be with you. You break off the engagement. Yeah, what can I do? Tell me and listen. Yes, they all thought that I forced Alice to break off the engagement, and I should also be happy to break off the engagement with Alice. But no one knows. In the week since she left, she has been all on my mind and heart. I once thought that Alice approached me in order to marry into a wealthy family. Like those scheming women who deliberately approached me, she had no sincerity towards me and was full of calculations. But on the 4th day after Alice left, when I saw darkness and coldness every time I came home, when I was injured but could not find any medicine, when the wound continued to bleed, but I no longer had those distressed eyes. I have to admit I miss Alice. Over the years, I have been spoiled by her love and ignored her kindness to me. She left. The past days and nights turned into guilt, wrapping me like vines, leaving me breathless and ready to suffer. Late one night, I dreamed of Alice again. At that time, she was wearing a white dress and her face was red from the cold. Even if the puffs she worked so hard to buy were eaten by others, she just smiled with gentle eyes. I liked Justin the most. But when I turned my head, I saw her eyes were red with sadness and she couldn't hold back a smile. My heart tightened suddenly, and I wanted to go forward and hug her. But the next second, she pushed me away violently, her face expressionless and extremely cold. You are too dirty. I don't want you anymore. I woke up with a start. His forehead was covered with cold sweat. Her words, her disgust and indifference became a sharp knife at this moment, cutting into my heart wantonly. Looking at the night in a daze, the stars are scattered, I have to admit. I was really hopelessly in love with Alice. 17. On the 10th day after canceling the engagement, I completed the task. The strategy mission is 100% completed. Will the host choose to stay or leave? After hearing the news, I paused slightly in kissing Sam. When I met his confused eyes, I smiled. The next second, I answered without hesitation. Leave. But the system suddenly said, Sam loves you 100%. I don't need you to guide me, it's full of love. Are you so satisfied with him that you are willing to stay in this world for him? I frowned, pushed the man on me away, ignored his dissatisfied gaze, and asked him to carry me to the bathroom while answering the system. I don't want to. Don't you think about it? The system seemed surprised by my answer. That's right. After all, I spent all day with Sam during this time. He was wonderful to me, considerate, gentle, and let me do whatever I want, like a perfect boyfriend. But that's not enough reason for me to stay for him. I bound the system and worked hard to complete the guide in order to return to my own world. This is my only purpose. No matter how beautiful this world is, it does not belong to me. This is Alice's world, not mine. Yes, in other words, everything here is like an immersive strategy game. Justin is the NPC of the game, so I will not be sad because of his targeting, nor will I be happy for his recovery. The same goes for Sam. The only difference is that I like him more. But that's all. I will never forget the purpose of my coming here, and no one can stop me from going home. 18. The system was silent for a moment and then asked me, Aren't you attracted to Sam at all? System, you asked the wrong question. Lying in the bathtub, Sam had adjusted the water temperature to the temperature that was most suitable for me. It was perfect. I breathed a sigh of relief but said calmly, What you should ask is not whether I will be tempted by him, but should I be tempted by an NPC in the game? The system is silent, but I laughed. It shouldn't be. You and I know this very well. And I gently caressed Sam's face, which was as perfect as a mannequin, and a trace of indifference slipped through my eyes. Sam, a man who 100% fits all my preferences, is the man who suddenly appeared next to me when I first traveled here. Is he really there? Or are you a chess piece left in this world to bewitch me? System, can you explain it clearly? The system suddenly fell into silence. Until I thought he was offline, he suddenly asked, When did you find out? He admitted it. I thought about it and slightly raised my lips. I had my doubts the first time I met him, but the last time I was in the bar, I was convinced. A hero rescuing a beautiful girl can easily move the heart of a girl in deep trouble. But the system, you misjudged me. I am definitely not a girl who indulges in love. I just want to go home. What's more, how could there be such a man in this world who perfectly fits my aesthetics? Not to mention that no one would give to another person without any regrets, without asking for anything in return or status. So, then he must have ulterior motives. After all, only devil's fruits are extremely tempting. You want me to stay because you don't want to pay the terms you promised me? Hearing this, the system paused for a moment but did not deny it. Yes, if you don't return, the system will take back all the points you earned from the strategy. Sure enough. I raised my eyebrows. You are so honest. The system seemed to laugh, and then returned to its mechanical coldness. In 3 hours, I will send you away. Please be prepared, host. I smiled with satisfaction. The smile is bright and sincere. Finally going back. 19. What I didn't expect was that Justin would come to me. Haven't seen him for 10 days. The once glamorous crown prince of the Castillo family was now unshaven and in a mess. He walked up to me, his eyes bloodshot, haggard and downcast. I looked at him expressionlessly. It wasn't until a moment later that he said, "Alice, I apologize to you. In the past 4 years you have always taken care of me, but I did not take into account your feelings and did one stupid thing after another. I hope you can forgive me. Can we start over? This time let me love you properly. You." He said it sincerely. I knew he meant what he said. But it's even more ridiculous because it's true. This man who was able to sleep with other women even when I was over 80 years old and had a strong love for me, told me at this moment that he loved me. Are love and sex separate? Ridiculous. I blinked my eyes and asked sincerely, "Do you love me?" Justin nodded and raised his hand to take my hand, but I avoided it in disgust. I looked at the obvious hurt in his eyes, as if I had hurt him. I sneered and asked suddenly, 2 months ago you were dating a model, ran out of condoms and asked me to give them to you. Do you still remember this? Justin was stunned, as if he remembered something, and his movements froze instantly. It's over. It was raining heavily that day. I went to the drugstore in the rain and bought some for you. My whole body was damp and wet, but you said you didn't need it anymore, and threw the things into the trash can in front of me. I looked at him expressionlessly. Actually, you are not missing a condom at all. You just want to play with me, right? Justin's eyes averted and he was speechless. I added, "A month ago, you asked me to run from the south of the city to the north of the city in the middle of the night to buy puffs. That day, I queued for 3 hours and was so cold that I shivered all over before I bought the puffs. But they were for you. Food for lovers. Actually, you know she doesn't really want to eat. She just wants to give me a showdown, right? A few days ago, you said you wanted me to come back from Hong Kong and that you would be good to me, but on the day I came back, you were having sex with another woman at home." My expression was extremely cold. "You said you love me? Do you want me to forgive you? But are you worthy?" 20. Outside the door. Justin clenched his fists, but his eyes were broken, and his face was as white as if he was about to die in the next second. I suddenly changed the subject. "But you don't need my forgiveness. Because I've never really been angry with you. How can there be resentment without love?" Justin was stunned. "What do you mean?" I smiled and said every word very clearly. "I never loved you, idiot. I've been plotting against you from the first time we met to the time we called off the engagement." Justin's expression instantly turned pale. His lips trembled slightly, and his words were extremely hoarse. "Impossible. Your consideration and gentleness to me over the years dash." I slightly raised the corners of my mouth, but my eyes were extremely cold. "Of course it's because I'm using you and I need your love, but I really don't love you. People like you will never deserve anyone's love. Because you don't understand respect and can't resist the arrangements at home, you vent all your grievances on people who are good to you. You are not only incompetent, but also cowardly. This is how the beloved reveals the truth about true love." Justin's face went blank for a moment, and then he came back to his senses, but he still refused to admit that what I said was true. He just squeezed my wrist tightly and gritted his teeth and said, "You are lying to me. You still refuse to forgive me for doing it deliberately. That's what you said, right?" I was a little impatient and unbuttoned the top 3 buttons of my shirt. The skin is snow white and covered with red marks, densely packed. It can be seen that the parties involved were intense in their kiss. Justin's words stopped abruptly and his body froze in place. And I waved. The man sitting on the sofa came out and stood in front of me. The man lowered his head and kissed the corner of my lips. Justin looked at this scene with red eyes and gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Sam, you guys, you really know each other." Sam looked up at him, smiling proudly and contemptuously. "I am Alice's best behaved dog. You do not deserve." The next second, Justin raised his fist and rushed towards Sam, but was kicked to the ground by Sam. At this time, a systematic reminder sounded in my mind. 5 seconds countdown to the return trip. 5. I leaned over to Justin's ear and suddenly said, "Justin, there is another secret." 4. That woman was arranged by me. 3. Justin's eyes widened in disbelief, but I laughed. "With just a little trick you got hooked. You will never be able to control your lower body." 2. I wiped my hands in disgust and threw the wipe at him. Condescending. Extremely cold. "It's so dirty." "So I left you a gift." The last note fell. Justin seemed to remember the strangeness in his body recently. His face suddenly turned pale, and he walked towards the door without looking back. "Hospital, go to the hospital." I looked at his back, turned around and threw myself into Sam's arms, feeling the healthy and powerful beating of his heart in his chest, all saying he loved me. This is a chess piece specially designed for me by the system, but in this world, gives me a fresh and pleasant experience. I raised my head, pressed my lips against his and smiled. "Thank you." 1. Goodbye. 21. The moment my soul left my body, my eyes fell into darkness. Suddenly, I heard a heartbreaking voice. "Wait for me." The next second, the transmission space shook violently, and the system sent out alarms in my mind. Warn. There is a person in the world who has developed self-awareness and intends to leave the world. Warning. Warning. My eyes shot open. There was nothingness in front of me. Somewhere. I called the system and got no response. I can only wait. I don't know how long it took before the system's voice sounded again. "The threat has been eliminated. Let's continue the return trip." But I was keenly aware of a slight difference in the system's mechanical voice. I frowned. The next second, the system laughed. "Alice, I'm coming." The voice sounded very familiar. My eyes shot open.